talked a little about operations security. We're going to go back and revisit portions of that as we hit different things. Oh, cool. How'd that happen? All right. So I want to talk a little about the human aspect. And I don't think I'll get this done, depends how fast I talk. People often represent the weakest link in the security chain and are chronically responsible for the failure of security systems. You know, people will click dangerous links in their email. They'll open attachments. They'll send sensitive information via unprotected channels. They'll write down passwords on sticky notes. They'll share passwords with other people. They'll try to help. And somebody comes in and says, oh, I need this. They'll help. They'll post personal data online. They'll download and open, I already mentioned this, email attachments. They'll try very hard to meet the corporate deadlines for shipping a product, even though they know there's vulnerabilities in it. They'll hide. You know, I couldn't figure out how to solve this. I'll pretend it doesn't exist in my code. It's really not a problem. Nobody will do that. Or as one company was saying recently, I was talking to somebody who was talking to somebody at a company who said, we realized we just marketed the prototype. You know, they were prototyping something. They had a deadline, so that's the product they shipped. It had none of the protections in it it needed. None of the reliability they needed. It was just passing the test cases. So I'm going to talk about two different things here: password protection and general social engineering. The most popular passwords are extremely easy to guess. This is from 2020 statistics. ABC123. Password. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I love you. 1, 1, 1, 1. QWERTY. Yes. Look at a keyboard. Just go across the top row of letters. That's QWERTY. Admin. Welcome. QWERTY keyboard. Why are the keys laid out the way they are on a keyboard? Yes.
Isn't it because when the typewriters are typing so fast they're breaking it?
I could only hear half of what you said.
I heard that it was because typewriters, people were typing so fast when it was alphabetically that they were breaking the machine, so they rearranged them.
Yeah, the keyboards on an old-fashioned typewriter, the old-fashioned typewriters had bars that went up and hit. And there were two problems. If you type too fast, two of the bars would stick together. One, they tried to set up the keyboard so the bars of common letter pairs would be further apart, less likely to stick together. And two, it would slow down your typing. The keyboard was deliberately designed to slow down typing. But we trained people how to use these 100 years ago, and we decided never to change it. This is something that has been a problem in computer science. People thought when they were developing software back in the 70s, oh, this will be completely replaced in the 80s or 90s. This software won't last a long time. Some of that software is still being used. 30, 40 years later, the software is still being used. It wasn't replaced like we thought it would be. Okay, 59% of people use their name or birth date in their password as part of their password or part of their user ID. 43% have shared their password with somebody. Hey, here it is, log in. 20% have shared their email account password. Only 45% of people would change a password after they're told, hey, the system has been breached, your password's been lost. I was having a problem with Steam Online, and I kept getting things saying somebody's trying to log in from somewhere overseas. You know, I had the dual factor authentication. They say they must know your password. I changed my password, it would happen again. I changed my password, it happened again. I forgot I had 2 Steam accounts. It was always the second account. I was changing passwords on account of one. It was the second one. I kept logging in. I did try to change it. So I contacted them. They said, well, wait a minute. You're contacting us from this account, but that account's not having the problem. I sent an email. They said, that's this other account. I said, oh, shoot. 42% of organizations rely on sticky notes for password management. Almost 2/3 of people use the same password across multiple accounts. That's low. I think it's higher than that. 12 steps an attacker might try to determine a password. Hey, let's first try. No password. Hey, that worked. The same as the user ID. Hey, that works. is or is derived from their name, username. Is a common word list, password, secret, private, plus common names and patterns, all A's, QWERTY, etc. I have a database of 2 million different words that are common for could be used in passwords. And I have a way of changing them 200 different ways that I could use to attack passwords. I change an O to a 0, an L to a 1, add an exclamation point to the end, because nobody ever does that, right? Or a $sign or a pound sign, contained in a short college dictionary, complete English word list, common non-English language dictionaries, common names. I think I mentioned this before, Bilbo, Frodo, Gandalf, Hogwarts, all those are in password lists I have. I had to update the password list. The one I used back in the 1990s did not have Hogwarts. Contained in a short college dictionary with capitalizations. Hey, password or substitutions. We'll come back to how we actually do this. Contained complete English dictionary, non-English dictionary. Obtained by brute force. They try all possible combinations of alphabetic characters, alphanumeric characters, the full character set. How badly do I want your password depends on how hard I'm going to try. So a dictionary attack, when we're fighting password, we use a file containing common words, phrases, common passwords, other strings likely to use as password. My very first password was password spelled backwards. I thought I was so clever. Hey, Drowsap, brute force attacks. Try every possible combination of characters to give up to a given length, 8 character, 9 character, 10 character passwords, etc. Those are the 2 most common ways of guessing, of trying to truly guess a password. So let's talk the brute force. It's considered a method of accessing an obstructed device through attempted multiple combinations of numeric and/or alphanumeric passwords. In an exhaustive or brute force attack, the attacker tries all possible passwords, usually in some automated fashion. Of course, it's going to be an automated fashion. How many of you tried? So, yeah, that thing I posted for the contest for the homework. Not yet. It's in the homework. One thing is to try and guess a password for a keypad. That's in there. You can't automate it, but you should do it systematically. For passwords in length 3 or less, not case sensitive, letters only, you have 20, if it's just letters only, all lowercase, you have 26 possibilities for the first one. If it's only 1 character long, because it's up to 3. 26 possibilities for the first letter and 26 possibilities for the second letter. Right, so 26 times 26, or if we have 3 letters, 26 times 26, 26, so it's 18,278 possible passwords. That sounds good. If I guess 1 password per milliseconds, that takes me 18 seconds. Guessing and trying to password every millisecond is not hard, depending on how we're doing it. We'll get back to that. If it's 4 characters, it'll take me 475 seconds. 5 characters, it'll take me 3.5 hours. Notice it's getting much, much longer as you add that extra character. So, where did I go? Right, okay. I could try to just use words in a dictionary to not try every possible word. That'll shorten my attack. I can try to find out information about them, automate a system that uses that information to try to find the password. There's something called password spraying. If I have possibility of getting into many accounts, I can use these common passwords against many accounts to see if I can get in. So one way to do this is I go to the system login. You see this on movies all the time. Go to the website and have a system automatically try the login. Most login systems will time out after so many bad passwords, or they'll make it take longer and longer each time you type in a bad password. What they show on the computer system networks, I mean on the videos or TV shows, movies, will never happen. Most operating systems, I mentioned this before, store passwords in an encrypted form using that one-way function. If I get the ID password list, I don't get immediate access to all user accounts. That's a good thing. I just get the encrypted values. But now that I have those encrypted values, I have them on my machine. I can run on against that as fast as possible on my machine, and you don't know I'm trying it. So yeah, when the user creates the password, the operating system accepts and then immediately conceals it, runs it through this one-way function, storing the unreadable version. And when I enter a new password, say, hey, I'm trying to log in, it runs it through the same one-way function, compares the results. If you forget your password, you must do a reset. You can't, they will not tell you what the password was. Yes.
I was just wondering, so you said once they get the encrypted password, they can do it on their own computer and compare, but how do they get the one-way function onto their own computer?
The one-way function is publicly known.
Oh,
You know, if I'm running Windows, you're running Windows, I have the same one-way function on there and I know what it is because there's a lot of tools that do it. Same with Linux. Now, Linux makes this a little harder. I mentioned before the seed, right? So it takes your password plus a 12-bit value, combines them together to run that through the one-way function. Actually, it takes I should be real quick, it takes that 12-bit seed and modifies the one-way function, one of those 4096 ways. So they have to try the seed, they can't pre-compute things. So you could hash a password, transform into data. You know, hash of hello is this long number. Hash of HBLLO, very different. Hash of waltz, very different. Okay, it's this hash, this one-way function that gets us the results. Here's a sample password table, you know, Jane with QWERTY, Pat with AAA, Philip with October 31 Witch, etc. Herman with Guess Me, Claire with AQ3, I like this one. If you send it with the encrypted version or whatever, it looks like this. Oops. And then I give you the same, you know, here's the original password, here's the encrypted version, and I can run it through. Now notice here, let's see. None of these are the same. This looks almost the same. This has an extra A, and so the numbers are very different. Like I said, what you can do, if you have the exact same password and the same function we run it through, we can pre-compute it. That's called a rainbow table. Lookup, it's a lookup table. Does this one make sense? Now, some people could take the first three letters of, say, the identifier, add the password, and store that value, right? So now if Pat and Roz have the same password, then we still get different values. The salt is the extra data field used for each user that changes things. How Linux does it, like it says, they use a 12-bit value. So 4096 possibilities. So even two people have the same password, they also have the same salt to get the same stored value. You know, makes same password hash completely different. You know, here's different salts, and as you can tell, very different passwords, encrypted values. As I've mentioned before, how Linux does it is it uses the DES algorithm, uses your password as the encryption key, and then encrypts the number 0. When your password's beyond 8 characters, it does some other things. It hashes the value first to get the encryption key. You know, to avoid, oh, you can't see that, but to avoid the attacks, require longer, complex, and more complex passwords, sometimes with symbols. That reduces the likelihood they're going to find it correctly. Limit failed login attempts. If they don't have the password file, somebody can keep trying this automatically. Lock an account after so many bad attempts. Use multi-factor authentication. Oh, they got your password. Like I said with my Steam account, they got my password, then my user ID. How they got those, I don't know, but they got them. But it sent an email to my user account and said, hey, authenticate this. And I was always no. I'm not logging in from Australia. I'm not logging in from South Korea. I'm not logging in from Moscow, Russia. You know, you can limit logins to a specific IP, network address range. only computers on this campus. So we have, I'll talk about these later, something called a virtual private network. But basically, I have, actually, I shouldn't even mention that. I have machines in my office that I can remotely log into, but I can only remotely log into them from computers on campus with a campus network address, or this what we call virtual private network, which requires additional authentication and encryption so I can log in from home. But anybody generally from the world, even if they can get to my computer, they can't access this remote login capability because it's blocked. At the edge of my office is where it's blocked. Actually, maybe it blocked at the edge of campus. Use CAPTCHAs. The CAPTCHAs, what those are. It's like, hey, click how many of these images have stoplights in them. Write the code that is written in this really funny way, because it's really hard automatically to read those. So CAPTCHAs like these, hey, what are the letters? What are the letters, right? Or prove you're human, please answer the following math challenge.
Mandatory.
Note, if you do not know the answer, reload the page, you'll probably get another easier question. So what is the answer to this one? Don't worry about it. 42, right now. 7 times the sine plus a cosine. Oh, but we're doing derivatives, so never mind. Okay, the CAPTCHA is a puzzle like supposedly only human can solve. They're used by websites to defeat automation. One, to prevent you from automatically collecting a whole bunch of accounts if they do free email accounts, because you can use those for spam, for doing other things on the system. Spammers will use thousands of new accounts to send the spams. They'll use what we call clickbait to trick users into solving CAPTCHAs on their behalf. So, hey, I go to somebody else's website, I get you to click on things, I'm logging into this free service and use their CAPTCHA through to my service and have you do that for me. I crowdsource the solution. Okay. So this is like, if we want to do this we're called user in the middle. The user requests access to a website. The spam sender to the spam sender's fake website. Hey, I wanted this because this is Bob's Sports Score website, and I really want to know, did the 49ers win yesterday? They send the request to a new account, Hotmail, say to Hotmail. Hotmail presents the CAPTCHA, which they send immediately back to the user, take the responses back, send it off to the Hotmail website. If I can set up a website that's really popular and does some free things for you, and you can think of what those could be, and somebody has to do a CAPTCHA to prove that they're a human. There's a lot of humans out there that will click and follow this, and we don't know the difference. We're not going to know the difference. I don't know how often this happens, but it does happen. Okay. Now, to avoid really strong password attacks, from the user side, use characters other than just A through Z, upper or lowercase. Choose to use longer passwords. Avoid actual names or words. Choose an unlikely password. Change the password regularly. Don't write it down. Don't tell anyone else. The example I like to tell people, I thought I had a slide here. Pick a sentence that means something to you. When I was young, I loved strawberries. There's a sentence. Use the first letter from each word in that sentence. Add some punctuation. When I was young, comma, so I can put a comma in the middle of my. Okay, don't use a comma. That's actually bad. But when I was young, colon. I'll use a colon. Does anybody know why comma is bad?
Common.
No.
Does that cause SQL?
It doesn't cause SQL issues like that. So when I'm logging in with Duo on the website, I can pull up a passcode on my Duo app. I can type my password, comma, that numeric passcode, and it won't fire up the Duo. It just logs me in. So our system with Duo assumes comma is separating your password from the passcode, no matter where it is in your password. Now, wait, I said it encrypts passwords. Yeah, well, right before they encrypt the password, they've got that, and that's where they check for the comma. All right, keystroke loggers. These are either hardware, like somebody can actually plug it in the back of your computer, or where your keyboard plugs in, or software. They record everything you're typing. They look for, usually it's also monitoring, hey, I'm on a website, I'm typing something, this could be a password. And they retain the keystrokes for future use. Now, one thing I could do is, I know you log in occasionally, you type in your password, right? Okay, I get everything you've typed that day. That's still a small number of possible words or passwords. And I can see something like, oh, there's a return. So I know you did, that's the end of a word. And usually there's a return before that for your user ID, return that. Oh, wait, I see your user ID. The next thing you're typing may be a password. I can scan these. I can do a lot of things if I have that log. Because computers are really good at scanning and pattern matching and doing things. All right. I was going to talk about social engineering, but that's actually looking like there's a good place to stop. And I'll just cover this next time I talk. I will do a review of stuff for the test on Tuesday, and if I have time left, I will talk about social engineering. The test will not cover the human element stuff. We'll stop at the operation security. Any questions? Okay. After you've gone, I brought roll sheets, but I forgot to hand them out. So I could do that. Actually, I will do that now. We've got a couple seconds. I'll start on this side. Yeah, put your name on them.
Have you been taking rules on this one?
No.
Okay.
This is the second time I've done this. All right. A few weeks ago, we were talking. I was talking to you about. Actually, it was 2 weeks ago today, wasn't it? Talking some about the human element of security. Now I know some of you are seeing this pile over here of the exams. I will hand them out at the end of class. I want to go over some of this stuff. I will, and then we'll talk about that. So, talking about passwords, I want to talk about the rest. Social engineering is probably something you've heard about. There should be training about this at the university that you have taken. You've all taken some type of training about cybersecurity training, right? Online. Okay. So social engineering attacks manipulate people to gain information or access to facilities, systems, and networks. Social engineers, it's the con man concept. Think of that, right? They work to influence their targets, take actions they might not otherwise have taken. Now, a successful social engineering attack may depend on authority, someone who appears to be in charge or knowledgeable. Trust, maybe you have some connection with the individual. Or they pretend that there's a connection and fool you into believing there's a connection. Intimidation, maybe scaring or bullying an individual into taking desired actions. Or urgency, creating a feeling that the action must be taken now. You know, you have 30 minutes to respond to this. You have, you know, these are things that happen, and it gets people to react in a certain way. Oops. So one common one that you all have probably seen, we've talked about this earlier, is phishing. Use of electronic communication to collect information or install malware, malicious software. A link to a website may look legitimate, but really is fake. And if you enter credentials, the hacker gets them. You know, your email, you know, National Security Department, a vulnerability has been identified in the Apple FaceTime mobile applications that allow an attacker to record calls and videos from your mobile device without your knowledge. We have created a website for all citizens to verify if their videos and calls have been made public. Click on this. Oh, that sounds interesting. I will do that. No, this is not real. You know, and they get you to then install malware on your system by clicking that link that you think is going to help you. You know, they're tricked, phishing victims are tricked into disclosing critical information which should be kept private. Their date of birth, social security numbers, phone numbers, bank account details, home address, password information, or information they need to reset your password, like those, you know, secret questions we talked about earlier. You know, name the street you were born on. Well, if they can get that information, that's a secret question. I was born on Easy Street, so it makes life, you know, pick something, I don't care. Victims respond with the information because they trust the source. And it's then used by the attackers to do something else, log into their systems, open bank accounts, change passwords, etc. They want your information. They want to steal your information. They usually sound urgent and they demand urgent action. You know, it may just be open an attachment in an email, click a link. You need to update a password. There's a social media connection request. You know, hey, because maybe there's things I only share with my friends, but now if somebody's a friend with me on Facebook and that information's there. You know, there is stuff too that you have to be careful with. I talked, so one of our former students did training for the government, US government after he graduated, in what we call in operations security, human elements of security. And he was, this was the fun part of this whole thing. Okay, so I go to a conference, a cybersecurity conference, and he's one of the keynote speakers. So he's an invited speaker, one of my former students. This is cool, hundreds of people there. And he's talking about how he did training for a general, a 4-star general, and was explaining to the general how using just social media and he could find some things out about the general. The general had children. The general had grandchildren. He has a granddaughter he spends time with. Oh, from that information, they were able to find out the granddaughter's name. That's not too hard, right? Well, the granddaughter had a friend who went with them to the general's cabin out in the woods, took pictures, posted it on social media saying, here I am with my good friend so-and-so at her grandfather's cabin. So my former student was able to tell General, look, I know you're really attached to your granddaughter. Well, here she is. Here's who she is. Here's the cabin you were visiting. Here's her friend. Here's this other information. Oh, by the way, most recently I found out she was here. Because you can find out a lot of information about people and then you use it. There was, yeah, okay. So many years ago, I don't know if I told the story here. A high school student emailed me to want to do a interview. Did I tell the story? Okay. So she emails me, says, I'm a high school student. I have to interview somebody in the field I'm interested in. You're a cybersecurity professor. I want to do cybersecurity. Do you mind if I interview you about privacy issues? I said, sure, I can do that. Why did I say sure? Because my kids had to do the same thing when they were in high school. And actually, I just got an email from another high school student today or yesterday asking the same thing. So I said, sure. You know, and this student was somewhere East Coast. But mentioned their name, mentioned they had competed in a cybersecurity competition. And then that's all she had said. And so I said, okay, that's interesting. And so I was thinking about this and I went off, I went to a conference. I'm sitting in my hotel room. I said, I really need to answer this email. She sent me a survey, you know, just questions. So I'm starting to answer it. And she's asking about privacy and asking about, you know, what concerns are there? And I said, I wonder. So I Googled her. Okay, found the competition she was in, which then found her name and the team name and the school she was in. Oh, that was interesting. So then I Googled, her last name was not Miller or Smith or anything. It was something less common. Checked in that region. Oh, found only one house with people of that name in that area. Google mapped it. Oh, there's a red pickup truck in the parking lot, you know, and you know, the pool in the backyard, and I could find the actual street address of this house. And then I found her dad's name, her mom. I said, oh, there's 2 people in their mid-50s who live in that area. They're probably her parents. So then I started searching on them. So I'm not searching on this high school girl because that's a little too creepy. You know, found out all this information. Her dad was a worked at the Naval Yard, a military guy, you know, this stuff. Also found out her uncle had died in a car accident a couple months before, though. It was sad. So then I emailed her and said, by the way, just using public information, I found out this about you. Here's your dad's personal office phone number. Apparently, I think it's in the garage. You got a nice red car in the truck and, you know, all this information. What I didn't tell her is, oh, by the way, although you emailed me and I'm in Idaho, I'm currently in a hotel room 20 miles from your house. Because I didn't want Dad Master Sergeant coming finding me in that hotel room. People can find out so much information about you. And just a little link, a little request, a little something that somebody else posted on social media about you. They get in, they find out this information. And then you can get passwords, you can get other things. So for phishing emails, you get strangers. Now, that could have been a phishing email from her trying to get information from me, but nothing I shared with her was about me personally, so it didn't matter. But you avoid strangers. You check their names, check their email addresses. Don't rush. There's an organization out there called Stop, Think, Connect, and specifically about online safety and security. Stop. Is this legitimate? Think about it. Do I really want to do this? Do I really need to click that link? Do I really need to respond? Then you can connect if you feel it's safe. Notice if there's mistakes in the spelling or grammar. Yes, legitimate people do that too. People attacking you, especially if English is not their native language, are much more common. Be aware of generic greetings, dear sir, dear ma'am. Yesterday, I got 5 different things from a website saying, you know, here's the login code that you have to enter into the website because you're trying to change your password. All of them went to my university email, all use different possible login IDs. We're going to try J. Alsauce. We're going to try Jim Alsauce. We're going to try Jim _ Alsauce. We're going to try Jim _ or J _ Alsauce. Yeah, I mean, there was these different ones. Somebody was trying to log into an account as me using my email, but and change the password. But fortunately, it would send to my account here to say, do the log. I was like, that's not me. I'm not doing this. But they were like 2 minutes apart, each of them. So somebody was manually doing this. Don't be lured by incredible deals. You know, that wonderful Nigerian prince with all that money. I mean, that's one for you. I don't think there's that many of those anymore, but there used to be a lot of those. Yes.
I think like last summer it was here in Moscow, they had a really bad one with like houses for rent and stuff like that. And I heard of a bunch of people who were like, there were like legit houses for sale of like rent around town, but like people found that and then posted their own ads for it and would ask you like for a renter's application, you give them your name, your social, like all this like weird stuff they needed about you. And then you know, they were all super cheap. And so I heard all these people like sending in their applications for it and it was all fake. And then once they finally called them, it was like a call center, like.
Oh, great. So for those online or the recording may not have heard, this was about a scam that occurred in here, University Town. Hey, we got a really cheap apartment for rent. Online application, submit all your information, like you said. So we have to do a background credit check. So social security number, name, address, everything. Yes. Good. Yeah. Hey, it looks legit. You know. For those who do, let's see if I can. I'll go back to this one because make sure I'm sharing the right screen. So like back here, if you hover on this link, at the very bottom, you'll see it'll pop up the address. Now I don't see, this says actually www.bing.com/ACLK/ID blah, 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 blah. I actually don't see this link here. That is what it's supposed to be. Why? Because Bing wants credit for giving you the search there, and there's advertising revenues and other things that show up when you do that type of thing. But in an email, generally, you should see the same address as you see written. Sometimes it'll be misspelled just slightly, just to make things annoying. Actually, that's still being shared, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing to check. Make sure it's a secure website, etc. Where am I? Don't trust links or attachments in unsolicited emails. Now, there's different types of phishing. There's phishing. The thing about phishing is they can send out to lots and lots of people. You know, I get email all the time. There's been an attempted security breach. Your Chase bank account has been suspended. Please log in here to get information. I don't have a Chase bank account. You know, but other people do. And so I throw it away, but not everybody throws it away. Spear phishing is a little more targeted. They know who you are. They are trying to go for you. Now, there was one campaign out there of the CEO fraud where they were sending things like to a finance person. You know, this is the CEO mentioning, you know, hey, this is however the CEO normally addresses himself. You know, President Green. You know, this is President Green. We've got an emergency situation with students who are stranded in Nicaragua. We need funding immediately sent to the Nicaraguan bank account to help get the students out. You know, and they send it to the finance people, and the finance people, oh, we got to do this. This is the president saying to do this. And this happens to several different companies where they'll say things like, oh, I've got this wonderful business deal. You know, I'm on travel. I got this wonderful business deal. Wire this money to this account. One company lost $24 million. Who wires $24 million without checking? Now, fortunately, they got most of it back, but.
I was gonna ask, like, should there be like protocol set into place?
There should be protocols set into place. Protocol is if the boss tells you to do it, you do it.
Yeah, I know that U of I has like a bunch of protocols.
Oh, the U of I, I'm not gonna do anything that fast with the U of I. Even President Green, it's not gonna get money wired to Nicaragua without the protocols in place, but smaller companies, they'll hit the smaller companies for $100,000, $200,000, whatever. But one of these was a big international company. They still got hit 24 million, yes.
Isn't it CFO, Chief Financial Officer, for anything money related?
Actually, it's the CEO, the boss, telling you to do this. Now, he may send it to the CFO. He may send it just to the finance people. And protocol should be checked with the CFO. But they may say, well, the boss tells me to do this. I should do it. So, and this is what's happened. Usually, again, smaller companies where the CEO is usually also the CFO and the COO. And the you know, small companies, the president is the C-suite. It's all everything. But this has happened several times, so this is an issue to watch. And protocol should be in place. Checks and balances. You know. Now, granted, the CEO sends you an email. You call him back, boss. Did you just send me an email? Yes, I sent you an email. Do it. You know, it's like, just checking. I don't want it to be scam or fraud. You know, watching out for our company. Usually they calm down when you say that. Fake websites. They're easy to fake because the attacker can copy the images the real site uses. Yeah, there's ways of scraping websites, of copying websites, downloading their whole content. So they'll look convincing. And typo squatting attacks, basically you just make up a slightly different URL that looks similar. So, you know, I mentioned Chase Bank. Well, forget the A, or CHAES instead of CHASE. People will do that, and then it looks the same. Fake codes. They may advertise for something. You know, hey, download now this PDF reader, etc. But you're downloading the wrong product. But it's a fake website. You download the product. And you don't even know you're downloading the wrong product until you've installed it. And there are especially ones that are slightly more questionable in the legality of the product, or ones that are like, you know, much cheaper versions than, like Adobe Reader. Adobe products are really expensive. So anything that deals with PDF cheaply is a prime target. Things that allow you to copy videos from the internet. You know, let's grab a YouTube video and make a copy on my machine. Let's do this. Things like that are very popular too. Places for people to do things like that. Anything that copies a Microsoft Office suite, cheaper. You know. Now, malware. So what does the malware do? You know, it can be installed by clicking an email attachment, to download an application, whatever. Like a man-in-the-browser attack sample, malicious code infected your browser. So it infects your actual web browser. And that code in the browser can read, copy, and redistribute anything the user enters. And it can examine, oh, what URL you're visiting. Oh, you're going to Chase. I'm thinking on Chase today. You're going to Chase Bank. Great. I'm going to copy the user ID and password you're putting in. You know, they intercept or reuse credentials. Oh, you're going to Amazon. I'm going to watch what credit card you're using, or eBay or some other shopping site. So your user types, the silent banker intercepts, the browser encrypts, and encrypted data transfer to the bank. Silent Banker was in January 2008, a Trojan that generally installed as a browser plugin. It detected going to the bank, intercept the keystrokes, even modify them. Hey, you're doing this. I know the interface to this bank. I can cause your actions right now to cause you to transfer money to my account. There's different types of phishing attacks, what they call smishing, which is fraudulent SMS, the text messages, or a social media message, or a voice message, or other message asking the recipient to do something, give up their critical information. Voice phishing, caller calls or leaves a voice message to urge the victim to do something. We just call them phone scams in the day. Spoofed Wi-Fi access points. You know, hey, it's free. Shopping malls, airport. I see them all the time in airports. You know, it's like free Wi-Fi. This airport does not do free Wi-Fi. You know. Spam, email spam, something like, just try to get you the terminology here. Unsolicited, unwanted junk emails sent out in bulk to a wholesale recipient list. So why they call it spam, I am not sure. Now, some of you may know spam as a meat, processed meat in a container. Did you know there's more than one flavor of this? Did you know when you go to Hawaii, you can find a whole rows of all the different flavors of this because it's very popular there? I did not know until I went to Hawaii. Okay, spam is typically for commercial purposes. To unsolicited, unwanted junk email, it's actually not an attack. It's, hey, advertising, bulk advertising, so we get you to do something. But it can contain malicious email. So it could be advertising, malicious code, links from malicious websites. Laws against spam exist, generally ineffective. Yeah, you know, you can't send spam in the United States. That's okay, I'm coming from Bulgaria. Stop me. You know, it doesn't work. Email filters become very effective for most spam. They can detect a lot of it, not all of it. Internet service providers use volume limitations, make spammers' jobs more difficult. Hey, you can't send out 10,000 emails an hour. We're not going to let you, or a minute, or whatever. So how do they send them out? If they limit them.
Self-hosting.
Self-hosting, you send it yourself. You go to a service that allows you to do this. If you're doing phishing emails or other type of malicious things, you rent a botnet. We'll talk about those later, but you can rent those by the hour. And they'll send out, they think most malicious spam emails come from botnets. Botnets are a network of infected computers, tens of thousands of personal computers in people's houses, and they use those to send the email for you. So even if you have nothing valuable on your computer and you don't need to do security, they can use it now to attack. Let's see, other types of social engineering attacks is what we call pretexting. You have some type of pretext to get in. This is establishing that connection. You know, hey, the boss told me to do this. Oh, I'm a friend of your mother's. I'm a friend of your wife's. I'm a friend of your husband's, you know. Family members. I'm a delivery person. Hey, somebody's birthday. I brought a cake. I'm supposed to bring it up to the conference room on floor 3. It's a surprise. Yeah, sure, I'll let you in. Somebody loves surprises. Especially, hey, I got an extra piece here for you. Tailgating, people drafting in, as they call it, into a company, bypassing security. Oh, I've got a whole bunch of coffee in my hands. Can you hold that door for me? Sure. Some people may have a fake badge or credentials or swipe card that looks legitimate, so they can even glance and say, oh, you got an company badge. Sure, I'll let you in. I can see you're wearing that badge, even though the swipe card's invalid, because it looks like you're valid and you look like you're legit. I was doing consulting for a company down in California one time, and I was coming in, and it was first thing in the morning, and guy's floor, office was 3rd floor. And just as I'm walking up to the building, I'm like, okay, where do I check in? I know I need to check in. I see somebody opening the side door, so I just drafted in after him. No problem, walked up to this guy's office. He goes, hi, how'd you get in here? They're supposed to buzz me when you got through the front door. Oh, I went in the side door following somebody. He's like, no! I said, it was real easy. He said, we just did training about that last month. But I acted like I knew what I was doing. I didn't, because I hadn't been in that building before. It's easy to do. Desktop browsing. If you can read upside down and backwards, that's a really good thing. You know, what's on somebody's desk? Can you see bank account numbers, credit card numbers, customer names? My wife worked for the high school newspaper and was told by the teacher teaching it, that's a great way to get news stories. You go in to interview somebody and you glance at their desk and read what they have there. Read upside down and backwards, great. Mirrors are also a really useful thing. Sometimes they give you more information than you expect, especially with Zoom. I have seen things in the background and reflections of things behind people they probably didn't think I could see. Fortunately, nothing was embarrassing or anything. You know, one, I know this guy was giving this presentation and you started hearing some clinking and a reflection of something behind me. You see his wife doing the dishes. And he kept glancing up at her like I think he was really annoyed. I'm giving presentation. Best way to improve people's security is training. The passwords, we talked about that, right? Increase password security, increase password strength. Understand that the bad guys want your passwords, not because you have anything valuable, but except you have access to a system. And maybe something doesn't appear valuable to you, but it is valuable to them. Social engineering training. The concept of trust but verify. You can trust people, you know, but check their credentials, check other things, check the emails. Network users, where do people connect to the network? What do they connect to? Do they have a work device on a public network? My work laptop. I'll go to Taco Time and use it. Okay, what's going on there? Can Taco Time now people there intercept? Yes. What I'm doing when I'm working. Should I access your grades from there? No, unless I go through a secure network connection, which we'll talk about later. Do we see foreign devices on our corporate network? Devices we've never seen before. How easy can they get them on our network and use our network? Years ago, it was really easy. It's harder now, fortunately, to do what we call ward driving. You would just drive around and see, oh, I can access a Wi-Fi access point from the street for inside this location. And they were still thinking physical security mentality. Oh, you have to be physically in the building through security. Once you're in the building, we trust you, forgetting that the Wi-Fi was penetrating to the outside street, so they didn't have the passwords or protections on them. You know, clean desk policy. Don't leave anything secret, confidential, valuable on your desk when you're out of their office. Familiarity with the different policies and regulations. All these just has to come up with training. You know, you're not if you work in a company, you work in a university, you're not the only one who has access to your office. Other people can come in. So like your exams, I shouldn't leave them out on my desk or that table at the front of my office because the custodians come in, other people can come in, and they would see it. That's your confidential information. Any questions on that part? Okay. So that's the human element, that's the people stuff. Oh, and by the way, if it wasn't for people, it's just